I can also see Mr. Charles Njenje. Thank you. Danton X, Mazi Wisdom, Mr. Marcel Ngobohei. I always pronounce the name anyhow I want. He's a fellow, London Business School. Very soon he'll be an expert.
Until I see you to court for murdering my name.
Very soon he'll be an expert in international law. All right, gentlemen, this is a program being anchored by Lombard Television and Njenje Media. Many of us are well aware of what is happening in Nigeria with regards to the debate about electrical transmission of electoral results. Well, what is it actually about? This is a conversation, but it's being streamed live to educate the world on what is happening in Nigeria and the consequences of the failure of the National Assembly to support the transmission of election results. So what is actually happening in Nigeria? Mazi is okay, you'll be an expert in this area. So what's going on at the National Assembly? Can you tell us?
It sounded as if I'm a National Assembly correspondent. But be that as may, I think the issue here is, in my understanding, it's the possibility of transmitting, when votes are cast, transmitting them electronically. You would agree with me that most electoral fraud do occur between the point of counting and to the point of collation center. And this is one thing that if done, I think a case in point recently was the Edo state. And you can see that that really took a lot off the shoulders of those who are in charge of election. But sadly, as it is, I am not too, people could actually air their opinion and vote for something. I'm not too particularly much, concerned about about the law itself, or rather the bill itself, but about the voting pattern. That's what ails me. That suddenly, when you hear people talk about, you hear this North-South divide, it comes to a point where, okay, let's take a stand. And this is what we want. There is no place within maybe the Southern Hemisphere that you think that has got no network. At least we do not have the cases where people bombard or destroy masts, and suddenly you say you have no network or stuff like that. I'm only particularly angered by those who ought to be speaking on our behalf to, on the moment of truth, totally abstain. A case in point is in the case of the state of ours, Anambra State, where you have three senators, and none of them voted yes or no, but just did an hour. And you ask yourself, why? We will get to that point, and I think I'm beginning to see reasons why something like that must have happened, because it's an aberration. But if we, again, if we have time, I will play us a video from Arise TV where Ruben Abati and co analyzed it. So it might help us to also get traction to it. So my point here is, it's when we talk about not e-voting per se, but e-transmission of this result, because bear in mind we already have the card reader that is already electronic. The argument is that we do not have enough coverage. But let's not lose sight also that about 2 years ago, or if not last year, the Senate got a loan request in order to cable the whole nation in what they call the fiber optic, and that loan was approved. Then I asked myself, if as part of the deal, if you can do this within 4 years to make sure that at least those gray areas are covered within 4 years, then we should be asking for a refund. You know, if you ask me, we should be asking for a refund if by that 2023 we are unable to close these gaps, as it were. Let me just leave it at that. But as a matter of introduction, I would say that the electronic voting, the e-transmission is something that all of us should, if you ever want something to begin to make sense, we should all demand for that. I know, and I do understand that there are all manners of argument for and against, but I think where there is will, and there must be a way to get these things done. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Njenje, in your experience around Africa, how African countries, how far have they come with regards to either electronic voting or electronic transmission of results? Let's be aware that these two things are different. Mr. Njenje.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you for having me. Election, as you can tell, has become a trigger and a cause of political instability in Africa. And there's a reason for that. It's either because people make the mistake of thinking that the election just starts and ends on the E-Day, election day. No, it starts, from the beginning. That's when you talk about electoral cycle. You have before, during, that is the E-Day, and after. And that is where the problem comes, that you can rig election even before it starts, because there is the registration of voters. If the registration is padded in a particular way, you're likely going to get a result that will not give you the correct, outcome. Or you then go on the election day, and that is where the voting and the electronic transmission will come in. If there is also some problem or violence, and you have seen it, where some electoral management bodies will take decision about whether to cancel or just a whole or part of it, or withhold result until certain assessments are concluded. That is another day where rigging can take place. Opposition can cause problem in certain places. We have seen ballot snatching and all that to make sure that they gain. Then the other one is post, and that is where violence will always come, because politicians do not always believe that they have lost an election. That is why you see it becomes a do or die affair, which shouldn't be. It goes across Africa. Otherwise, it is a process. It is not a destination. It is just a process towards what? Bringing an outcome as part of democratic principles that allows the citizens to choose their leaders from and change them according to the Constitution or the electoral law. And so when they now refuse this result, or they would have caused some problem either before, during, and then when it now is after, they now bring all that together, consolidate it, and go to court. At times they tell you, let's do what we have to do. If you are not happy with it, go to court. And you have seen the involvement of courts in a place where now it is becoming, you now find that it is no longer the ballot box that is determining who wins. They will now, you have seen courts, annulling or canceling results of certain places. In some areas, some people you thought that they came first in the counting will not get it. You find somebody who came fourth or fifth now being declared because why? These issues that cuts across the electoral circle before, during, and after have not been dealt with. And look at what you have about the primaries of political parties, because the parties are not even showing democracy internally. That is why the primaries of 3 political parties in one state in Nigeria, just recently, in Anambra, I hope that is not your state, Njenje media, where the 3 parties, all of them came up with different results. And you will wonder, if a party that is aspiring to lead, there is ABGA, there is APC, there's PDP, if they want to lead a nation, cannot internally organize election that is perfect or near perfect or credible, how can we surrender the destiny of Nigerians to that kind of party? Well, that is one issue. But you talked about elections across the continent. This is what it is. It's become a source of instability, a sort of crisis, a sort of conflict, and shouldn't be, to the point that today, courts, you remember Malawi, you remember Kenya, Nigeria, remember Cote d'Ivoire, where courts are now beginning to take over the determination of electoral outcomes. And it's dangerous. Those who fashioned, who crafted the constitution, the ground norm or the electoral laws, made sure that electoral management bodies like INEC in Nigeria have been given the authority to regulate and organize elections. And then you'll be wondering why the National Assembly members now want now to take over that position to themselves, to begin to ask INEC to now refer to them whether they will use electronic declaration of results, or you go to NCC. That is unconstitutional. They are actually overshooting their own mandate. And you wonder, these same people, these same MPs that are talking now, these are 2 bills that they have modeled up. You will wonder whether they have the mandate of their people. When last did any of them visit home? Nigeria is facing insecurity. They sit down in Abuja, and he was complaining that even their own MPs didn't bother to go and vote, whether for or against. But you wonder, these same people, if it is not for self-service, if it's not for their own interests that they are pursuing, why would they not go and seek the mandate? How have they gauged the opinion of their own people to know that the people are not with them in what they are? Look at the political comedy that is going on. That is not what Nigerians expect from them. And mind you, they have more than, he was saying that money has been given out for them to do this. There is the argument, it's now shall or may. What is all that about? Did they remember that?
Before we proceed, is there any other African country that has or operates either electronic voting or e-transmission of results, in your knowledge?
Yes. Ghana just did it. Ghana had the election in 2020. Cape Verde, which is, well, they have a smaller population. That's one thing. But they're also using it. It is not rocket science. Everybody in Nigeria, ask how many people in Nigeria can use the phone. How many of them can have, this card that you use to get either deposit or get money from the bank. People who are going for 500 naira, 1,000 naira. And there is then the issue of internet coverage. They talked about bandwidth. That is, 4G or 3G. That is neither, because the NCC, when was it? 2 years ago, had said that they can cover, in fact, ANEC had also mentioned that they can cover up to more than 90% of the country. They have more than about 103,000 voting units.
And this is surprising, isn't it? Because that INEC has actually requested for electronic transmission of results.
Exactly. So, and then they're now crying more than the bereaved of trying to shave INEC's head on their behalf in their absence? Why didn't they know that if they had invited, they only invited the NCC people to come and say that about 40 or 49 or whatever. And you begin to question, where have they been all this while, not to get it to the maximum? Does it not tell it is actually, they are indicting, self-indicting, to come there and be telling the whole world that Nigeria can only cover this. And you are there, money is being allocated every year for you to do what you have to do. You haven't done it. But now you are now pandering to the politicians. Because what they are doing, they are following just politics. And then
before we come back to Miss Njenje, before we come back to you, sorry. Now that the issue have moved the technological aspect of it, let us invite Marcel to, if we can address also on that issue of the technological challenges of e-transmission of election results. Can you unmute yourself, Marcel, please?
Thank you, Dan. See, let us be very factual. As it stands now, the president and his cabinet and other senior leadership during the COVID era were having their meeting using teleconference facility, okay? And this teleconference facility was set up by a government agency. I think it's Galaxy Backbone PLC, which is one of the agencies I worked with at a point. Now, in terms of whether we have the technology facility to do this, it is a no-brainer. The question is that what is the size of an election result? We're talking about numbers, right? So you complete your voting and you give a party, one party gets 1,000, the other party gets 300. So these are just small packets of data. It's just like your chat, you know, these are WhatsApp chats. So compare your WhatsApp chats to having to upload a video on WhatsApp. They are two different things. So when you come in terms of electronic election transmission, people are here in this country that will build that thing for free for Nigeria. We won't even take money, it's free. Just build a small app that you can install on devices. They will go to a polling unit. And once the results are collated, you just key in the numbers and then click send. And that is it. There's nothing. All this story that they're talking about, NCC has capability, it's a no-brainer. So let us not, I know when politicians want to, stop things, they come up with a lot of sentiments and all that. As long as you have phone connectivity from any location, maybe you can receive your call. That particular location can be layered on with data. And from data, you can just use your mobile devices and launch an app and send the results. Now, for places that doesn't have data, for places that doesn't have internet coverage, there are devices that you can key in your results, it will store it. And once you move into an area that has internet connectivity, it automatically sends it. Do you understand? So there is you can't manipulate this. It's just that we know why most politicians don't want this, because I think I checked last, the total number of polling units as of 2019 was around 119,000, less than 120,000. And then the collation wards was around 8,000. So it looks as if after elections are done in the polling unit, they bring it somewhere to maybe a ward to collate. That is where the fraud happens. A simple phone device, the cheapest smartphone, put a small app on it, go to your polling location. Once the numbers are counted, everybody will see it. In front, all the political agents will surround, and it was okay. APC, this number, you type it. PDP, and when they confirm it, you can use the fingerprint authentication for whoever you have given that device, so that maybe the polling unit agent at that place can use fingerprint to authenticate the result. And once you click fingerprint, you click send. Whether there is internet or no internet, for the place where the internet, it will hit straight within seconds to the INEC server. For the places where there is no internet, you can keep it, and once you move to location where you have internet, it will automatically be transferred. So this is doable, simple. Within 1 week, it can be deployed. There's no big deal about it. So let's not bring technology. It's a dog game. Dan, please tell them that we have a team that can do it for free. If it is for the benefit of Nigeria, we'll deploy an app, give them. In fact, do you realize that during the last elections, people were streaming from different polling units? They were streaming, YouTube streaming from different polling units. So, and you're talking about sending text. that are less than maybe 5 kilobytes. Or just okay, take it that your picture, the picture that your phone snaps might be around maybe 2 MB, 2 megabytes, let's say 2 million bytes. And then election results cannot be more than maybe 5,000 bytes. So that is the difference. And I hope you understand it in that context. Thank you.
So if that were so, what are the politicians afraid of then, Mr. Njenje? What are they afraid of?
In fact, I was mentioning Ghana and Cape Verde, but even Nigeria, INEC, in these past 3 elections that were conducted, they use this system. Imagine what how it works is like this at the polling units. When political agents of political parties are there, CSO observers and everybody's there, and then the vote is counted there and entered into the form. Okay, this transmission we're talking about is that what they now want to do is to hand carry it, go enter a vehicle, and in the process it can be changed. But if after that has been done, like he said, Marcel said, you take it, you just snap it, just like a picture, and then send it to the INEC server. That is the electronic transmission we're talking about. There is nothing big deal there. But the politicians are, and I'm telling you that many of them will come back to regret what they are doing today, because there is about 18 months to election. And they say in politics that 24 hours is a lot. They are only thinking about what they can do about now, the eternal now, that now if you ask them to go to the field, they are thinking about how, when they finish, they will now be able to enter whatever figure they want and then hand carry it from a polling unit to the collation center before it is, and then transmitted that way. No, it's not going to happen that way. INEC, and how many parties are there in Nigeria? It's been whittled down from 92 to 18. So it's no longer going to be a big deal. It can enter a page. It cannot be more than a page that we're talking about. 18. This party got this party got this party got this. Okay? So, and then you take a snapshot of that and you send it just like you send the normal. If I ask you now to send me something, are you going to go to Google or Yahoo or whatever to do it? It's so easy and simple. But politicians, most of them, they benefit from chaos, man-made chaos, so that in that confusion, they can manipulate. They can now change the figures, use hand to change it or whatever. And that one that, in fact, they may even arrive at the center before the real, if, for instance, they now want to move the results by a particular means, by transportation, maybe a bus or vehicle. They can find a way of double-crossing that process and sending their own before the INEC one arrives. And they will bully and make sure that it is that one that they have brought that will be recorded. Then, if you now say you are opposed to it, they say go to court, and knowing that when they go to court, that they can buy judgments. That is the bottom. That is the root of all what we're having here. And I'm wondering, those of them that are there, how many 400 and something of them, they think that they can muzzle Nigeria. Most of them have not. I'm saying it. Let them come and correct me if I'm wrong. They have not. They are afraid to get home. They've not been home to know what their people think, and the people send them to go and represent them. So who are they?
That is another. That is another question I'm coming to now. Yes. These national senators, House of Representatives, so-called honorable, who are they actually representing? Do they feel the pulse? Because I think in the UK, an MP will say, I called my constituents, this is what they're telling me. So these people in Abuja, who are they actually representing? Do they actually know what their constituents want? before they do this voting. Njenje Media, what do you say to that? Because you mentioned it during your introductory comment.
You know, I don't want to laugh. Who do they owe anything? Have you ever seen any of these guys, the reps, the senators? Do you know where their offices are? In the UK, they call them surgeries. You can come in, you wait for your MP, but here, all you can see is a bunch of people running like as if someone has opened the asylum, pure, overrunning you on the street. And you think they owe you anything. The moment the election is gone, no one owns you absolutely nothing. They just do as they so wish. So, but in this case, I think if Nigerians are angry enough, there must be a starting point to the cure of the madness. There must be. You know, if time permits, when I come up again, I can show us actually the names of these people, because for the first time, I think, thanks to Senator Njenje, who insisted that the names of those who voted for, against, should be made known. These are things, and honestly, again, the other side, when you look at the argument, some of the arguments may sound plausible, you know, as to the reason why you want to stop it. But there is one thing that is much, much fundamental is, in the name of INEC, it says Independent Electoral Commission. Question is, if these things are tinkered about, how independent is then INEC? You know, in the UK, when election is done by the council, these things, it's done by the body that is elected or assigned to do these things. The Westminster is not debating how England is going to conduct their elections. I mean, it's if these are people that, if they are independent, they work with NCC or whatever it's called, and that they work with the network providers, is a question of saying, we need this. MTN, what is the cost? If Gombe or Chibok local government does not have network, we do not care if you use Turai, is it Turai or whatever it's called, you know, a satellite telephone to give us for these 8 hours the service to transmit this. What are we talking about? I mean, we talk about as if this is rocket science. Do you know that if we are serious for that day, there are companies, I think there was a time Facebook played with the idea, that can actually give you internet by balloon. The balloon will be floating in air, and that balloon can actually cover the whole of Northeast, Northwest, you know, in just maybe multiple balloons. Because when we talk about these things, I mean, you know, sometimes it makes me sick. It makes me sick, like Marcel said. You have where deployment of these apps, if need be that you are serious, we have Nigerians that can pro bono, free of charge. Back-end apps, very easy to do. Drag and drop, you don't even need to write code. Drag and drop authenticates these users. Users are returning officers, key in this thing, punch it, it goes. It's just like sending, I don't know. You don't even need internet in some cases. You only need the ability to send text message. So sometimes you kind of wonder, you just get angry because the conversation tells you one thing. They do not feel that they owe you and I anything. They do not feel that there is any need for accountability. They do not feel that it does matter. That's why they can decide to do this thing. And I tell you, there is no consequences. And there's not going to be no consequences. Because in most cases, you and I, after blowing high grammars, many of us don't even have PVC. On the day of election, you see people playing football on the street. They will still go back because that is what they are used to. There was this senator in one of the southeastern states, I don't want to mention name, that You know, story has it that he's much interested in joining the INEC committee all the time. That always he always finds a way. He always finds a way of returning to the Senate because he has mastered the trick. But technology is a disruptor. Technology is going to disrupt the space, and these men, some of them sadly, when I say this, some of them sadly are young men that you think, why can't you for once in your life do something for posterity? No, they don't want to do it. They all prefer. Look at the names here. You can see them on the screen as I'm sharing now. Those that voted for yes. There is one thing that is very clear. This list is a clear case of the North and South divide. That's what that list tells me. You look at it very clearly. Those that voted yes. And one funny person that I see, if you look at the last one, those that voted against, you see Smart Adeyemi. You remember the Smart? That's the man that took over from Dino Melaye. And the same one that we saw in as a drama queen. Sorry, he's a man, but in this case, he's a drama queen, crying in the Senate that he can no longer go home. Well, I say, if he can no longer go home because of insecurity, maybe that's why he does not want electronic voting. And the last person on that list is Oluremi Tinubu. I believe you guys should know who she is more than myself. And you tell me these are progressive who want change? Come on. It's sickening because you can clearly look at it. The nation is divided with the exception of one or two, like someone like Ovio Mogege, Peter Nwoboshi. Well, when you hear some of these names, you will actually understand the reason why they voted the way they voted anyway. But looking at this list is a clear case of North-South divide. And sadly, again, I wouldn't give anybody any hope. It is pathetic, to say the least. Thank you.
One issue at this point, let me remind our guests who have joined the conversation that you are free to indicate whether you want to make a comment or ask a question by using the device to raise up your hand, and we will recognize you. One intriguing thing I noticed in this Senate voting especially is that the committee, the INEC committee in its original recommendation said, initially prescribed that the commission, INEC, may transmit results of election by electronic means where and when practicable. But this recommendation of INEC, when it came to the general floor, two senators from the North, I think the original mover of the motion was from Niger State. The person who seconded it, I think, from Borno State, that is Deputy Whip Senator Sabi Abdullahi, said, the commission may consider electronic transmission of results provided the national coverage is adjudged to be adequate and secure by the National Communications Commission and approved by the National Assembly. Now, one point that one person who had made a very good commentary on this contentious provision of this INEC bill is the governor of Sokoto State, Tambuwal. This former Speaker of the House of Rep and now Governor of Sokoto State, Aminu Tambuwal, said that the decision of the Senate to subject INEC constitutional power to conduct elections to NCC, National Communications Commission, is void, unconstitutional, and unlawful. Now, I wonder, this is important because many of the people in the National Assembly are lawyers. So how could they, because the Nigerian Constitution, Governor Tambuwal said, the Nigerian Constitution Section 78 provides that the registration of voters and the conduct of elections shall be subject to the direction and supervision of the Independent National Electoral Commission. Now, in the third schedule, the Constitution also says INEC has power to organize, undertake, and supervise all elections. The Constitution further provides that INEC operations shall not be subject to the direction of anybody or authority. And anyone who has followed the provision of the previous National Assembly, I think the 8th session of the National Assembly, when they wanted to pass an electoral act that made it mandatory for electronic voting, INEC reminded them of this constitutional provision to say that you cannot tell us by law how to conduct election, because the Constitution has vested that power only on us. And so that National Assembly said, okay, we leave it to you. And now INEC now said, we are ready for electronic transmission of results. Now this National Assembly says, no, you cannot use electronic transmission of results without us authorizing you to do it under the direction of the National Communications Commission. So this act, if it passes into law, is null and void already because it is against the provisions of the Constitution. And yet, the lawmakers voted to approve that amendment, despite the opposition of people like Senator Njenje, who said, no, you cannot make that law. But yet, they still went ahead and passed it. Mazi Heshtemoko, you has raised up your hand. You can unmute yourself.
Just wanted to ask a question. Is the whole bill about the electronic transmission of votes, or are there other provisions? Because it seems to me the whole thing is a farce, really, because where true federalism is practiced, I suppose it's the states that makes this kind of laws when it comes to how election is conducted. So I'm a bit confused as to why the whole fuss about electronic transition, because it's a common sense thing to if you do it electronically, it's obviously more efficient. It's only when a problem arises when you do the hand count, but you don't initially start with hand count. You do the hand count afterwards if there is a dispute, like we have in the last US presidential election. So I don't understand why people will keep on doing things in a very archaic way, since they have the means to be able to make things more efficient and time and cost savings as well. So I don't know if the whole thing is about electronic transmission, or if there is any other amendments in the bill that we are not talking about.
Any person want to comment on this? Okay, Marcel.
Dan, what I will tell you is that INEC itself is the problem. And let us be very, very blunt. Remember, in this country, when INEC says that the law does not allow them to transmit elections electronically, I remember INEC making that case. And then the question I asked is that which law allows financial institutions to transmit money electronically? See, once you have been given power to do something, you are to innovate and come up with ways of making that thing seamless with high integrity. So INEC has all the embodiment powers to go ahead and come up with innovations on how to make elections more credible. I believe they do not need any other legislation in terms of when you see what the Constitution has given them. But INEC in this country came up, I think either INEC under Jega or this current INEC chairman came up and told the entire country that they cannot transmit result electronically because the electoral laws and constitution does not permit them. And that was when the case of having to amend the electoral law to allow electronic transmission of results. So let us get it clear. INEC should go ahead and do their job. I mean, maybe I might be wrong, but that was my understanding then. INEC should go ahead and do their job. There's no law that says you cannot transmit elections electronically. There's no law. If there is that law that says you cannot transmit results electronically, they should let us see that law. So where there is no impeding law, then nothing stops you from doing your work. I mean, that is my own.
The problem we have here, is that, okay, Mr. Njenje, okay, let me say this before I come to, sorry, Mr. Njenje. The problem we have here, Marcel, is that according to reports we are getting from the National Assembly, there will have been no problem. The lawmakers were in agreement voting a night before the election, before the voting. An order came from the APC, the ruling party, that they will not support that clause 52B. And that will be because the committee has already made that provision, that clause is already there. But a night before the voting, they sent instructions to all their members that they will not vote for that clause. And that was why when they came to that clause, a senator from APC now stood up and proposed an amendment to that particular provision. So the fear is, remember that even 24 hours before that, these daily newspapers have reported that there is a plan by the ruling party to water down this 2021 electoral bill. So the question, why is the ruling party doing this? What is their agenda? Before you start blaming INEC, this is the government of the day doing this. Mr. Njenje.
Okay, yes, thank you. I think Marcel was speaking.
We're not hearing you.
Wait, let me see what is happening now. Can you hear me now? Hello?
Or is it my own system? Are other people hearing? Yeah, you sound so distant. You sound so distant. Maybe something is
Can you hear me? Oh,
yes, very well. Yeah.
You can hear me now? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. No, I was going to address Marcel's blame of INEC. INEC has its own problem, but not on this issue. Let me take you back to the background to all this. After every election, usually there is an assessment, what you call like looking at what went wrong and how to improve. And after that, Nigeria had always set up some committees. Some of them made recommendation asking for amendment of the electoral law, because there are those, and it's understandable, because when you make laws, you leave, those of you that are lawyers, you leave the allowance for amendment, because at the time you were making those laws, you probably did not capture every element. So it is in order. And I can tell you, this act has been, when this draft has been there? It's been there for a long time. So it's not about INEC, what INEC did or what INEC did not do. But it is just that, and some people, let me also mention here that it is not about, Maziese talked about whether there are other issues captured. Yes, like punishment for electoral offenders. You know that people, those who were snatching ballot boxes and doing all kinds of things, there is no provision for how you can try them, and specific and specified mode of trying them and sentences or penalties that they can face. Those things are in this act. But what is clear now, and all of them, all from I don't know how many of them, the panels that that assessed previous elections have always talked about moving forward, improvement. It is part of the improvement of and making election results credible. That is why everybody is now talking about electronic transmission. Now, in fact, it used to be electronic voting. From there now, we have now moved to the next step. Logical steps will be electronic transmission. Because that way, That way, if everybody has voted, INEC is still controlling that. It needs to be written into the law. Otherwise, if you do that, do you know how many cases INEC has from the last election? More than 800 cases. What you do now is that you leave INEC vulnerable. They will tell you who gave you the authority to go and use electronic transmission. It is not in the law.
Do you mean 800 court
cases? You can't
cases?
just go and do what is not stated. That is one. I'm not making a case for INEC on that, but that is what it is, knowing the kind of place where we are. There was an article, you published it, that I did, is it a week or so ago, about politicians as enemies of democracy in Nigeria. And not only in Nigeria, but across Africa and most places. Even in the US, we saw how Donald Trump tried to muzzle his way to get, remove America from, America has lost a lot from the attitude and conduct and character of a powerful man. But the system withstood that, democracy prevailed. So politicians are the ones that are the problem. They are the ones that are behind vote buying. They are the ones behind using talks to cause a problem. They will be the ones to hire agents that will go and alter these results and make sure that what you have is not a representation of what happened at the polling units. They are the ones that will also go to court to try to influence judges. So we should put an election. Ask any politician. The electoral body is only fantastic, wonderful, when they have won an election. When they lose, they have somebody to blame. I'm not saying that electoral bodies, I have worked for the ECONEC, the ECOWAS network of electoral commissions for the 15 ECOWAS states. And I know what their handicaps and what they are going through. They are human beings, mark you, and they're working under the law. Forget the issue about, I have mentioned also that the independent autonomy prefix you put on their name, at times is in the name, not in practice. Because they are still facing political pressure. And now the executive, after the executive added their own, now the legislature are now adding their own pressure to somebody trying to do their work. How will you perform? Meanwhile, the same parties and politicians cannot get themselves together to do simple party primary to produce their own candidates. People have gone to court. In Anambra, many court cases are coming now. Everybody will now be facing INEC, but they didn't look at what the division, the crisis, the conflict within their own party. Is it INEC that is causing that? So let's get it straight. It is that the politicians are the problems we have in democracy in Africa and elsewhere. So don't ask INEC to go and get the power or expand the boundary until somebody tells you to stop. No, you work within the law. And let me tell you that the Supreme Court has also talked about the sanctity of the INEC manual beyond because some people have gone to court to challenge INEC on that. And they talk that the manual talks about how to organize and then regulate. But this organize and regulate did not specifically mention the issue of electronic transmission. And you must wait, it must be detailed, it must be mentioned, you have to have the law backing you to do that. Otherwise it becomes a nullity. That is my understanding.
Okay, sorry, I just wanted to clear this because again, a lot of people are watching us and I want to be very, very clear. What Dan has showed says that the Constitution, which is the supreme law, has given INEC the power to organize. That's the word, organize and supervise. Organize and supervise. Now, your manual is the lower level operational procedures, which INEC can produce, okay? But the law itself was very, very clear. And I am asking in a layman language, when they introduced smart card, when they introduced the electronic vote that Jega introduced, was there a law in place that allowed that?
Yes.
Or there was, okay,
There
so
was a
Electoral Act
specific
was
law.
amended to
Go and
allow
check
for
the act.
those smart machines.
Yes, but they did not talk about transmission. He did not talk about transmission. Otherwise, everybody will not be foolish to be following it if that was not the case.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why would they?
Of course,
bother?
if you remember, there was a law. That's, if you remember, that was Wike's case and Lagos case, where smart card reader was used, and where, I think eventually the courts, in their usual way, Wike was able to, win the case. But I think in the case of Lagos, where similar incident, but the case invariably went the other way around as well. But you can interpret that however you want. But, to your question, Marcel, I think, yes, there is this law there. Again, before as a spare parts dealer, before, a name given to me by Malami, but as a spare parts dealer, and unapologetically so, before I start talking about the ASOL and the spare tires, I would have loved that lawyers in the house would give us the nitty-gritties of the laws, as to how and where INEC powers starts and end. In my layman and in my spare parts dealer mentality, I would say this is a very simple thing. It's like piston and rings. You have the right to conduct election. However, that's why you input your budget, and your budget is approved for you. The Constitution has ab initio, in my understanding, giving you the right to say, this is how we want to conduct the election. We are going to obey however you want to conduct it. If you decide it's going to be Operation A, or whatever, A4, whatever it's called, Option A4, so be it. So, this back and forth sometimes, it can only confirm to me that we, honestly, are very, very far away from being serious. And in trying to, I can see a lot of unseriousness. I can see a lot of grandstanding and, planning how to rig 2023. If nobody wants to say it, I will say it. Everything you see here is grand plan on how to rig 2023. If possible, that they would also ask us to even remove card reader for 2023. You would even, anyway, nothing surprises me in Nigeria anymore. I won't be surprised that one senator wakes up and say, colleagues, we can actually, this card reader is not working. We can actually remove it. Nothing surprises me anymore, because at the end of the day, I think we aren't, my personal view, I don't see us getting too serious to get these things right.
I think the question you posed about the position of the law. Governor Amin Tambuwal is an eminent lawyer, a son, and a member of Nigerian Body of Benchers. It's a life bencher. And I think his opinion should be given strong weight. In his statement, paragraph 2 of his press statement released this morning said, unquestionably, the mode of election and transmission are critical parts of the conduct, supervision, undertaking, and organization of elections in Nigeria. And therefore, of course, the National Assembly has power to flesh out the legal framework, but that has to be within, consistent with the Constitution. Paragraph 3, these constitutional powers have been solely and exclusively prescribed by the Constitution to INEC and cannot be shared with the National Communications Commission or any other authority, and certainly not a body unknown to the Constitution. So, INEC has the power to conduct elections, and therefore Governor Tambuwal is saying that the National Assembly has no powers to whittle down the Constitution that has been given to INEC. But then, at the end of the day, okay, let's listen to Rekondong Washpan before I ask the next question for for us to consider. Go ahead, please, Mr. Pam.
Good evening, participants.
Go ahead.
Yes, I think we have dwelled so much on analyzing the pros and cons of this electronic transmission. I think we should hit the nail on the head. How do we checkmate this? Knowing fully well that there's an agenda within an agenda. Thank you. I rest my case for now.
Thank you very much. That's the next question I want to ask. Now, those who are not happy with this, what has happened yesterday, and again this morning, I learned there is a rougher in the House of Red on the same issue. The members started to fight one another. Some people walked out of the city. What will Nigerians who disagree with this, what the Senate has done, what will they do? Because they have adjourned till September 14, I guess. They are now on recess till September. They are not coming back. So myself, what will Nigerians do?
Dan, again, when I read the statement of the governor you just posted, it was still very, very clear to me that INEC has the powers to organize election in whatever form and format and mode, provided they communicate this clear in their guidelines and say this is how we're going to do it. The Constitution empowers them. I do not see any inconsistency in that. So if that man is saying that the Senate cannot legislate on that, he's simply saying that the Senate cannot legislate on what the Constitution has given INEC the power to do already. And it's in line with my thoughts in simple English when I understand the reason. Now, in terms of what Nigerians can do, what is available to people, I still feel, is a court. Now, whether one can go to court and challenge a Senate decision, I think that has happened before, where Senate made a decision and somebody went to court to challenge that decision and say it's a constitutional, and then Senate also were brought in to defend their case. But this also, we know the Nigerian legal system, it takes years. So maybe by the time that case will finish, people that want to do what they want to do would have gone ahead. In fact, they will be interested in helping you adjourn that case till 2030. You know, by then they must have gone ahead to do what they want to do. The other option you want to say is, okay, you want to make a mass movement to occupy the National Assembly and force them to do the right thing. Well, I have seen cases in Nigeria where military will just extrajudicially shoot people on the streets. So in this particular instance, I don't know. I'm neither here nor here, which seems to be like in a fix. I mean, if you ask me, maybe Oga Paul could bail us out.
Okay, can I chip in?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, no, I think there is a solution. The fact that both houses have gone on recess and they will come back whenever they come back, maybe this is an opportunity for them to also go home and listen to their own people. It's also an opportunity for CSOs and activists to talk to their own, bring some pressure to bear to say, listen, that part you people are doing is not correct. Remember that they still need to have both houses need to agree. They haven't done so. They can still have the opportunity to go and redeem themselves, because that is what it is. What they have done is just a comedy of error. Granted, human beings are also capable of committing errors. Let's give it to them benefit of the doubt that perhaps they didn't read the mood, or they were too focused on that election will be held today or tomorrow and how they will be able to win. But it goes beyond that. So I think there is, I think hope is not lost. They can do that and then come to terms. And let me come back to this issue about whether INEC has power or not has power. Because if INEC had power, they didn't need to go asking for it. Remember the constitution we're dealing with is 1999. Electronic, technology is something new. That was why, when was it, 2 years ago, there was a workshop, international workshop organized by INEC and others and partners about the use of technology in elections in Africa. It is a new thing for us. So we're still learning that it hasn't, and if it's not there, you need to introduce it. Well, in fact, what they talk about, introduction of technology, because we're all analog. everything was handwritten. Doing, immigration, everybody, you go to the airport to find them. But now you have passports that are, that can be read. What do you call it? Machine readable passports and everything. Those are new to us. So you didn't expect INEC to just wake up and say, well, we're introducing a machine, and then somebody will say, no, it's not mentioned there. There will be a staccato of voices and then myriad of law cases. That is why they remember that the legislature also has a what they call it, oversight powers over them. There is otherwise, that's why you have committee on INEC, go on both houses. INEC cannot work in silo or in isolation. You have to work within the law, and in doing so, you now have to take into account these feelings, and that's why they are now asking for beyond, like I said, beyond this electronic voting or transmission. There are other issues about how. Remember, look at it now. It is the constitution that gave INEC the power. This under this power of regulation and organization. They have been able to cut down the number of political parties from 92 to 18. Imagine that. Otherwise, everybody wanted to be. Myself could have been once you are chairman of a party, you form your own party. But there are rules that you need to follow to cut down. Remember that some people had actually gone to court to challenge that. But the court is telling them, listen, that INEC has the power to do that. And that is the beauty of democracy. When in doubt, you go and test it in the law courts. And that is hoping that the court will give you a fair, justiciable, and just outcome that will bring confidence to everybody. In any case, somebody has to lose a case, and somebody will win. But let it be on paper that it was brought to court, and this is and that is why the Supreme Court decision on most of these cases are the ones that, if the Constitution did not specify it, and it is taken to the Supreme Court, that is the apex court. That is the one, if it gives a verdict, Dan can testify to that. It can replace what the Lordship said is there, can become what you can now cite as your authority. So that is the case. For now, and then I mentioned the issue of bringing, do you know that INEC is even overburdened? There are recommendations to onboarding INEC. They shouldn't be bothered in some countries, in Francophone countries. The body that registers, it is the Ministry of Interior or Territory that registers, is in charge of registration of voters. And their own autonomous election management body is just to make sure that they supervise. And that is why after remember, in Côte d'Ivoire and other places, it is the Constitutional Court still needs to go and rectify, even when the electoral body has announced the outcome of an election. The Constitutional Court will still have to give approval. That is for Francophone countries. So there are, legal provisions that you must try to play with, or try to according to the law. Otherwise, it becomes unlawful. You leave yourself vulnerable to so many cases. And now INEC, instead of organizing an election, will now be going to court. It was not meant to that. And INEC cannot prosecute. Remember. So even if they apprehend somebody who has committed an electoral offense, it's not INEC.
Let me ask this question. Let me ask this question.
For electoral malpractices.
Mr. Njenje, let me ask, I think Mazi Ogbonike Ohebu is here. Can INEC go to court to challenge this law if passed? Because it's not been passed. Thank you for reminding us, Mr. Njenje. It's just that the Senate has passed their own bill. The House of Rep has passed their own bill. They will not sit together to harmonize it. And then when they've harmonized it, they will send it to the Senate, to the President Buhari. Once President Buhari has signed it, it now becomes law. The question is, we don't know when this will be done. So if this process is finally concluded, can INEC go to court to challenge this? Mazi, are you free to advise us on that?
Yeah, sorry, I just came back and yes, not just INEC, anybody could do that, and it depends on what happens eventually, because you cannot, of course, it's good Nigerians are crying now, but you cannot say that a law has been passed until after the conference of the Senate and the House of Reps to harmonize their positions, and anything could come up during that process. And once that is done, it goes back to both chambers, and they will pass and send to the president. It's good Nigerians are talking now, and the truth is that there is merit in what so many of them are saying. As pointed out by Senator Carlo, it will be difficult to transmit results from his village. There are some communities where you cannot. There are some communities where you cannot have network coverage, and I'm sure the consciousness we have now will eventually lead to us doing that transmission, because if transmission is done, it's not just that the result will be credible, lives will be saved. If you have participated in an election, going from the ward to the ward collection center to the local government collection center, so many things do happen. A lot of violence. If that is corrected with that, I'm sure we'll not have the problems we're having. So yeah, you are correct. And they can challenge that, and definitely if they challenge that, they can succeed.
Okay, is it a surprise does it surprise you? I know you belong to the People's Democratic Party. Did it surprise you that the members of the National Senate they're getting ready to pass the bill as approved by the committee until the national leadership of APC directed their members to amend that clause 52? Does it come as a surprise to the opposition PDP that happened at the Senate?
It doesn't come as a surprise to me. In this business, you find out that anybody that is in power does not believe that tomorrow the table will turn around. If you look at our history, several times, even the military, a lot of it was alleged that Obasanjo was convicted with the law the decree he promulgated. And a few years ago, Adegoke fought against the separation of the Attorney General of the Federation from the Minister of Justice. So usually when you are in power, you don't know what will happen tomorrow. And you try to actually perpetuate some draconian laws, which usually will haunt you. For instance, I'm confident that PDP will win the election in 2023, and you see the APC guys kicking against the laws they just passed. So it's not a surprise to me. It's not, but it's unfortunate.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. We have spent more than an hour here now, so let's have some concluding thoughts.
Dan,
sorry?
Dan,
yes?
Sorry, before you go, Mazi Obuneke, please, I want us to get this clear, and let us be professionals. Any place where you can install DSTV, is there anywhere in this country, in Nigeria, where you cannot install a DSTV dish? So if anybody tells you that electronic transmission cannot happen in his place, you first ask him whether are people in his place, in his village, watching DSTV. If you can mount a DSTV anywhere, you can. DSTV is basically electronic transmission. So let's not even even beat around the bush. Okay, so please tell those politicians they should just calm down. We are not fools, and Nigerians are not that daft. So when they open their mouth and come and tell us that their village cannot be, they should just realize that they are not dealing with like as if all of us that don't carry our head together go jam wall. So let's just.
But if Senator Kalo actually said that, Senator Kalo answered the
telephone clear that
answered the telephone call, mobile call from the village now.
Exactly. The moment you can install a GSTV anywhere, GSTV is universal. It's a dish. It points to satellites in space. And it doesn't take more than 30 minutes to set that thing up. It doesn't take more than 30 minutes. Call a DSTV installer to your house. If it's not playing around the bush, once he looks at the site, at the line of the satellite, he knows where to point his dish. And the next thing you start receiving signal in your house. That same signal, he can use it to transmit anything. So if you can transmit video and TV signals and everything from your village, is it simple text you cannot transmit? So please tell those politicians, let them just let them calm down. Thank you.
I think what they are trying to cajole us with is the the data transmission, But we wouldn't let them stick us to the level of just, like 3G, because again, they put it to 3G, 4G. But before 3G and 4G, we've been sending texts with Nokia 3310. Do you understand? I mean, these things are simple. So however we've been sending texts, we've been transmitting data. So let's go back. If it means, developing our own Nokia 3310 to, hammer in some star hash, whatever, we'll do it.
Okay, please, let's, Njenje, I think so that our guest, Mr. Njenje, may like to go to bed. Let's round up this discussion so that whoever wants to go will go. But so let's listen to these two speakers, and then Marcel and Njenje will now give their concluding thoughts. Then if we want to have any other discussion, we can continue. Marcel, quickly.
Yes, I think the issue here is it's an issue of interpretation, because according to Mr. Paul, our Constitution, leaves a lot of things on the loose, which I believe the Supreme Court, if they manage to pass it in the end, it can be challenged in the Supreme Court, whereby the Supreme Court will look for precedents in terms of, okay, if anything like that has happened in the past, and how was that sorted? Having said that, I think this whole issue is to me, is just so farcical that we shouldn't be discussing it really, because according to the Constitution, it just seems quite unequivocal that INEC has the mandate or the power to conduct the election and transmit the results as they see fit. This whole, whether they can do it or not do it, to me, it's just farcical. However, like what Paul said again, there's other amendments in the bill, which in itself may have, which has entangled the whole thing. If this is an isolated bill with regards to electronic transmission, then I would say it will be dead on arrival. But because they entangled with other laws as well, it makes it more difficult to be able to isolate this one and say, okay, this is the one that is so farcical that we shouldn't be talking about it. So I think eventually it might end up in the Supreme Court, whether the Supreme Court would then interpret it with precedents. That's how I say it.
All right, Mr. Justice, please, quickly.
Okay.
Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, it's just a quick one. In terms of the electronic transfer, well, to be fair, like Mazi Ihebu said, I think they have some points. I do know for sure, for example, because I was involved in 2019 election, and I know that in Ebonyi State, there are some parts where you cannot really transmit results electronically. It's not possible. And I will imagine a lot of places in the North will be like that. That doesn't mean that I support that, but I think the point I'm trying to make is electronic transfer is a very minute part of election rigging in Nigeria. And so whether INEC or the civil society is going to take legal action, we have to look at holistically the role of the political parties, the role of security agencies. All these people, all these different strands play, in fact, more significant role than even the electronic transfer. In 2019, INEC initially said they were going to use card reader. Some places card reader worked, some places it didn't work. After the election, they changed the goalposts and say, well, card reader is not authorized. So there are a lot more than this transmission. So if we are shooting the senators, we have to be cautious that there are more serious or other serious issues.
We thank you. Now, finally, summation. Mr. Njenje, your concluding thoughts, please.
Okay, I will say that it is not for nothing that the issue of electronic transmission is causing the problem, because that is the whole thing. That people say vote. You may vote, and if you vote and your vote does not count, then you have not voted. That is why the transmission of the result is very important. So I think it is not for just coincidence that everybody is focused on that. But what I'm saying now is that for the sake of integrity of this National Assembly, the recess provides them with a lacuna, provides them with the opportunity to now rediscover themselves, and not just to talk about, listen to all stakeholders about all the gamuts of the bill, the act that is being amended. Because I agree that in the process, they may also lose sight of other things. The idea, and with the bearing in mind that according to ECOWAS protocol, you cannot bring any changes to the electoral law 6 months before an election. That must be at the back of their mind, because if they delay, then it means even if it is passed or assented to, it's not going to work for 2023. That is another thing. The other thing is that the issue of oversight. Myself, this is for you. Because if INEC goes ahead to undermine or say, well, we have the power to do what we are going to do, if you say you have the power to do electronic transfer and you have transmission of votes, and you need money to do that, be sure that the assembly will, both the committees will not give you that money. And there's nothing you can do, because it's within their own constitutional right to also approve your budget. The other thing that was mentioned is whether INEC can go to court. I'm not too sure, because INEC, what will be going? Is it to go and cry, let us do electronic? No, they will go with what they have. The onus is on those who have voted against it, and then the other Nigerians to mount the pressure to say, listen, when the representatives get back to them, to say, listen, go back and then do the needful. Because we're not talking about today, it is about tomorrow. The rest of the world is watching Nigeria, the most populous nation in Africa, that has the largest concentration of voters. Nigeria had 84 million people registered. By the time they finish this continuous registration, Nigeria would have hit 100 million registered voters. That is about many countries combined in Africa. Nigeria is a big player and should be seen to be so. It should not be going back into analog when others are moving in the technological, digital age. That is my plea, and I hope that they will listen to that and make sure that they give the voters to bring credibility to Nigerian electoral process and then the result, so that there will be less problems. It will be more cost-effective and better to deploy, to have election with little problem than begin now to have soldiers on the streets or policemen firing at our people because they are protesting over flawed election. It's an appeal. I want to stop here.
Thank you very much. Mr. Marcel, please.
Okay, Dan, our generation is a blessed generation. If for nothing, we have watched live images from Mars, miles and millions of miles away. So I wanted to know the place on this planet Earth that will be so far away from Mars that we cannot be able to transmit any electronic data. Okay, so it's totally flawed. And I keep maintaining that let's not even go there, it is a done deal. Now, I come onto two main things. One is the independence of INEC. If you say a body is independent, its funding and all its provisions should be guaranteed. So the issue Mr. Paul raised that INEC funding can be stopped if it brings up an innovation also calls about whether INEC is truly independent, whether they are not being controlled by the other side. Then I have taken time to also study bodies, generally governance around bodies. You cannot be a judge and a jury in your own case. The way INEC is currently constituted, INEC is like a judge and jury in his own case. INEC needs to be unbundled. Let the voter registration exercise be handled by a separate body and let INEC just leverage on it. But what happens is that when you bundle those two things together, it's like being a judge and a jury. The moment I can determine the number of people that can vote in a place, I can decide who to disenfranchise or who not to disenfranchise by allocating polling booths and all that. So INEC should be unbundled. I am one person that strongly feel that when it comes to governance structure, INEC is a jury and a judge. So they should unbundle. Let the registration, voter registration and education be handled by a separate independent body that can do that. And let INEC just leverage on it. The last one is Nigerians should need to wake up and realize that this is the fight for their own life as well. Because if these politicians succeed in passing laws that favors them and is anti the people, at the end of the day, they will simply go to court and tell you they are implementing, the judiciary will interpret the laws as it's being passed. So this is the time to fight this battle. Just like I've heard that individuals can actually go to court to challenge any law that's been passed. I think it's high time Nigerians begin to organize to challenge laws. The PIB, whatever they think they can spend all their life trying to cook and force us on Nigerians should just go to court and challenge it. And it's high time we set a body, mass movement that will be purely dedicated to challenging all these things in the court. Let's just make it a mass movement. Anything they pass that doesn't favor us, it won't be implemented. We'll go to court until we see the end. At the end of the day, you stop them from implementing it, and we also will ensure that that thing doesn't happen. By the time this happens 2 or 3 times, they will realize that whatever they are doing in that Senate chamber is in futility if it doesn't go with us as aspirations of the masses. That's my concluding comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for this analysis. One thing I'll have to add to what Mr. Njenje said, that INEC can go to court for judicial interpretation, where the Constitution says INEC should organize, conduct, supervise the election. It is at their prerogative. And so if the National Assembly passes a law that tends to derogate from the functions allocated to INEC, then INEC can go to court and say, court, interpret this law for us. Is this law null and void? And then put up the argument, and then the Supreme Court, which is burdened with judicial interpretation, can interpret that law whether it is null and void or not. So that is an area where INEC can go to court to tell the court, tell us, is this law correct that the National Assembly, when it eventually passes, because we don't know, like you said, it's still a very long process. When they come back to September, they now start having this argument. We will still continue this conversation for the next 30 minutes. But Mr. Njenje, thank you very much. You may wish to, we realize that I think it was President Muhammad Buhari that said someone did there for the other room. So I don't know, some people may like to go to the other room.
The thing we have to understand, Dan and colleagues, is that we should look at how these politicians are operating. Between the two major parties, you cannot find any dividing line. With the way they are moving, and serving themselves. So when you are following them, be very cautious and careful. To watch what they are, when they tell you good morning, check whether it's actually what time of the day it is, because they seem to be working for themselves and not for the people. We will get there one day when the policies will be about policies and not about individuals.
Yeah.
Thank you very
so
much.
We thank you very much, sir. I think the next target of our conversation for the next few minutes will be the last section of that discussion. What citizens can do. Mr. Njenje, you are free to stay or to go. When we start to talk, it takes a long time. But
okay, thank you. I have something to. Thank you very much until another time. Thanks for having me.
All right. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much, sir.
Dan, you said something. You said INEC can go to court.
Yes.
At the same time, you said before they started, the ruling party sent a message to its members to vote in certain ways.
Yeah.
Those are two clear contradicting. And who appointed the INEC person?
Well, I think anybody who watches Nigeria and the government, what we are hearing is that 24 hours before the actual voting started, the leader of the Senate, who have APC, received an instruction that the members of the party should amend that clause, submit a motion to amend it, and vote in a certain way to whittle down the powers of INEC for electronic transmission. Now, the way Nigeria they behave, you don't even know whether it is the chief of staff to the president. You don't know whether it is even a minister who asked somewhere, who picked up a phone call, pointed it and said, please, we want this thing done. Nigeria, at the end of the day, is a place where even tomorrow, like we know that the present INEC chairman now is in the news that he is in favor of electronic transmission of votes. So Nigeria is a place where tomorrow he will pick up a phone call and try to find out, maybe on his own, this is what I want to do, but who actually passed down this instruction anyway? It's not clear where it's coming from. And then he may simply instruct the legal department of INEC. We know that INEC is an independent body. They know what their function. They did it under Goodluck Jonathan. Now, when National Assembly wanted to pass a law for electronic voting, they said no. National Assembly cannot pass a law telling us how to conduct an election. No, you can't do that. They went to court and challenged it and won. So now that they also know that this is their job, and this law has said it is not, but they can go to court and say,
but you're
no.
assuming that they want to go to court. What I'm trying to allude to is, if you had, okay, let's put it this way: official members of the ruling party were told to vote in certain ways.
Yeah.
I can now, in my own layman thinking, say that unofficial members of the ruling party will not be going to court to challenge anything.
But are you suggesting that INEC is an appendage of the ruling party?
Well, you didn't hear that from my mouth. But I'm just.
Yeah, that's the question. Are you suggesting that INEC cannot act? After all, we saw Jega act independently of Goodluck Jonathan. And this
that was my brother. That was then. Now we've been 6 years. 6 years. This particular INEC has been here. What exactly have they done differently from? You see, listen. If we tell ourselves the truth, under Jega, I hate Jega or like Jega. Even Jega himself, I think about end of last month, he came out lamenting of things not really. It appears that someone lamented all the things that are put in place are no longer functional, or even no much improvement was done on them. What we can see from Jega is Anambra State, Ekiti State, these states that these odd states are normally a state to test new technologies and improvement. And here we have a Dogon, nothing much. Here we have Anambra coming up. nothing much is going to happen. What I had expected now to have happened after 6 years is there ought to be continuous voter registration. That anytime if you wake up between the hours of 8 to maybe 5 or 6, you could either walk into a bank, you can create a hotspot in a bank, a desk, that the way when you go to bank, you want to do your BVN. I mean, these are innovative things that, you do it, your fingerprints is there, it saves cost. Why? Because the bank, whether you do any deal with INEC or no INEC, you're still going to run your bank. The internet is still going to be there. So there are institutions that have these facilities on standby. That if we are
my brother, are you looking for it far away? This is the same government that tells us that we must register our data before you have a SIM card.
Exactly. So eventually,
when you want to register a SIM card, you simply go there, they do everything, take your pictures, take everything, your data information, piece into a system, and it's done. It goes once it is fed into the system, it goes straight to NCC server, isn't it? So what's the difference?
Honestly, sometimes, and again, you hear, oh, we budget money for data harmonization. Sometimes I want to puke, really, because these things, it just makes sense. We understand big data. Some of us are in this field, and I'm like, what on earth are we what on earth are we talking about? I mean, just honestly.
The only thing, my own area, my brother. Okay, say something before we go to the area where we can do something.
I think the way election is still conducted in Nigeria is still very cumbersome. Everything is still too centralized. I think for them to have, for elections to have, credibility in Nigeria, they have to actually delegate it to the states to manage. If they don't do that,
now this we see how they conduct local government elections, my brother.
I know that the states are still incompetent. However, where things are done right, where it should be done, how it should be done, I think it's the states that conducts elections, because it's more manageable within the states.
Okoye, you're going too far. How can a state conduct election where the states are they are legends in rigging election?
Yeah, it is said rigging election now.
That's what I'm saying.
An APC state conducts an election. 100% of the local government chairman will come from APC. A PDP state conducts election. That's the story is the same. Now, we have 36 states in Nigeria. Do you know that states can actually do their own electronic voting? Only one state has tried it in Nigeria, that is Kaduna, under Nasir El-Rufai. Other ones, are they just newcomers to the game? The things you blame the federal government of not doing, they are also incapable. They have failed without exception, abysmally in delivering those things that they ought to.
Let us look at the area where before, so that we don't, very soon our time will start running, the area where the citizens can weigh in. Because what concerns me is that all the senators from my state walked out and did not vote. And the report is that all of them were there when it is being debated. When it comes to time to voting, they now stepped out, they didn't vote. That is the area where it is concerning. I've just, I sent a query to one of them, and then the letter referred to what he said in the television, that because she was in the committee that passed their own committee decision, she wouldn't want to vote against the committee. I said, what nonsense are you talking about? You go there, you insist on what your committee has done, but pass, say no, because this is what our committee decided. You people are not changing it. I will vote no. Because I will vote no, because I vote yes for what my committee has decided. So the question we should be asking is, why is it that no senator from Anambra was there to vote for that? Yes.
Somebody online answered that question. Chemeze Obiano says, most of the southern senators that voted against e-transmission have they all have cases with EFCC. Go figure. I don't know if true or false. I cannot claim to know that if it's true or not, but I mean, that's an angle to it. So we might have to ring EFCC to find out if that is true.
Well, I'm aware that Senator Stelodo has a case with EFCC. I don't know whether Ekunife has a case with EFCC. I know that Defanyeba has a case with the EFCC as well. And then,
Dan, you're trying to answer a question. I mean, please don't implicate me. I didn't say so.
Dan,
I just read what somebody said.
Son, Dan, you see that we have people that have been held hostage as representatives. And
but Abaribe now, we see Abaribe. In fact, Abaribe was the hero. Abaribe was like, when that motion was passed, Abaribe now said, no, there is a different motion. When they wanted to do Hushu, Abaribe raised the point of order. Even members of PDP were begging Abaribe to stand on a point of order. In fact, at the point, my correspondent said they went into executive session. So at that executive session, Abaribe refused. They now came back into the open session. Abaribe said, no, that issue must be trashed before we go to voting. And when they wanted to say, let us do voice vote, Abaribe said, no, there must be division so that we will know who voted for what. So, is Abaribe Obisinabo? Does he have two heads? How is he different from other senators from my state? And the senators from my state all ran away. That is where I'm concerned. All of them from Anambra State, they all ran away.
Dan,
we have to count them.
There are two ways we can look at this. Abaribe still stands as a hero of democracy in Nigeria, whether anybody likes it or not. I mean, it is someone that have stood up for democracy anytime, any day. Now, the one that concerns me are the northern senators, where you see them, they kind of, follow a particular direction, a kind of a block direction. And they are the one whose citizens suffer most. So at the end of the day, maybe we also need to like let things be the way they are. The northerners, most of the northern voting masses and most of the northern citizens and most of the northern leaders of thought are quiet. You have not seen them call out their leaders the way the southerners are calling out their leaders. Just like you have taken it upon yourself. You've sent a text to your senator. You've called your senator out in the open. You've challenged them. We are not seeing that with the northern voting team. And it's high time we begin to set up a team that would be able to do this across board, not just north or not just south. We need to begin to bring up like minds of people from across the country to realize that what these people are throwing away, what they are bargaining away is our collective future. Most of them are probably in their 70s, 80s. If you look at them, probably the next 10, 20 years, some of them are gone. So what they are doing now is actually putting in prison the future generation. And the future generation must not keep quiet. And this cuts across whether you are North, whether you are South, whether you are Yoruba, whether you are Hausa, whatever you are. Once that law is made, you are bound to it. And anybody that is exploiting it will exploit it. So it's better Nigerians come together across divide and fight. So we need to call out every senator, not just your senator. We need to now maybe we need to come in one program and begin to drag these senators out one by one. Let them come and explain to us their rationale. Just like somebody was trying to explain that you cannot transmit something. I'm telling them it sounds very stupid. Anybody that mentioned that, simply tell the person, maybe the person is not on planet Earth. Maybe is in one galactic planet that our technology has not gotten into. So let's begin to call out every senator. It doesn't matter whether they are mine or not, because whatever decision they take affects me. We put a roster, we put their names one by one, and we will call them to come and explain. We want to understand them.
Well, if you call them, do you know, like this PIB, I call them, I always tell them openly now, I invited all senator. I invited senator from my state, Ifanyoba. I want to interview you on PIB bill. He said, my brother, wait until after the vote. I said, why you wait after the vote? I called Senator Stelodo. I want to interview you on PIB bill. He said, my brother, wait until after the vote. Senator Kunife didn't even respond to me. I want to interview you on this PIB bill. They don't care because they feel that they don't get there by the vote of the masses. That is the problem. And so it is for Nigerians to say no, whether you get my vote before you got there or not, while you are still answering name as my representative.
Yeah.
I sent all the statements to Chris Azubog, the honorable rep representing me in the House of Rep. He didn't respond. But if the people take it upon them to tell these people no, like I asked the question, whose interest do they represent? I said that my MP will go to if I send him an email, he will respond. I've lived in the UK now. Any email I send to my MP, he will respond. If at the point, they will even call you on phone and then hear what you have to say. So why are Nigerians not holding their own reps responsible? Because you are representing me there. Why do you allow them to get away with it? Johnson is raising up his stand.
I just have
maybe we need to launch a website, Democracy Hall of Shame, and begin to the ones that didn't come, we put them there and give them we'll give them plague, give them certificates. You know,
we'll get to that.
Yes, we will need to get to a point where we need to call them out and shame them because they cannot just mess the country up like this.
Let's listen to Johnson.
Well, you want to set up a Hall of Fame where it's going to be according to APC, PDP, Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba. Well, one thing I want to ask, I just have a few questions before I go ahead and make my comments. Was electronic voting part of this, electoral amendments? That's one. Now, the next question is it possible to have a credible election without electronic transmission? Or does it mean that we have to have electronic transmission before we have a credible election? That's one. Now, I do know that it's always very easy to blame the leadership, the political leadership. You see, I tell people this all the time, you can never have bad leadership, political leadership with good followership. It's impossible. If you look around the world, the whole world, and you see where you have good leadership, they have responsible citizens. So if you understand the crooked nature and the vicious nature of the citizens, Nigerians, you will understand that it's going to be very difficult. Let me tell you the truth. I would estimate, in my own estimation, less than 1% of Nigerians actually want things to be done. Well, a lot of people want things to be done, but the question is how many people know how to get things done? There were issues of people talking about basketball team being this, being that, and people were just mentioning tribe. How about if we decide, okay, anybody who has never worked or lived in a country where things work should never hold any political post in Nigeria? How would that sound? Because the truth of the matter is that if you don't know how things work, you have never lived in a place where things work, you will never know how to fix it. So I believe that there are a lot of politics involved in this electronic transmission stuff. And maybe, I don't know, there are network issues in most remote parts of Nigeria. I can tell you that. I mean, I know villages where you can't.
I will allow you to continue, Mr. Johnson, but let me just quickly say a few things. Yes. One, what the committee recommended is, I think it's very simple. It said INEC will have to determine wherever it is possible. So of course, INEC may go and want to conduct election in Sambisa. And we say, well, Sambisa, electronic transmission may not be possible here, so that's okay. So the committee said, INEC, whenever it is possible to do so, they will do so. But the controversy is that another member, APC member, now introduced an amendment that before INEC will reach that decision, they must first of all have to consult National Communications Commission, a public body unknown to the Constitution, and then come back to the National Assembly for the National Assembly to give them the authority to do electronic transmission. And our senators voted for this, knowing fully well that it is illegal, because INEC should not be subjected, in making that decision, they shouldn't be subjected to any other public authority, not even if National Assembly, no. It is a matter within their prerogative to make decision. That is the problem.
Yeah, I think that's mischievous because I believe that if INEC is entrusted with the responsibility of organizing elections, they should decide how they will transmit results. I mean
Exactly.
that's what should be. But of course, this is Africa. I mean, people just try to be mischievous with a lot of things that we do in that country. So my
Another
thing
question
is,
which you raised before you continue, I will allow you to
yes.
continue so that another question you raise is how important is this electronic transmission of results? I'm sharing something now from my WhatsApp. It's a report by Center for Democracy and Development. After the 2019 election, there was a report, investigation. All the observer missions submitted their recommendation. So the Center for Democracy and Development now collected all the recommendations of these observer missions and produced a report. I've forgotten how many pages, but it's a very, very detailed report. I can get it, but this ICIR picked something from that report. It is not the main report, but if you click on that link I'm sharing, it will give you the entire report. Now, they said that to cast election in Nigeria, no be problem. Polling booth, no be problem. That counting of votes, no be problem, because once the votes are counted, it is announced at the polling booth, everybody takes a note. This is the result. That where the problem is in the collection. That is taking those results to the collection center. And if you listen to Master Boniko, we said that is sheer majority of the problem happen. And now, that is also the conclusion of this Center for Democratic Development. He said that has been the problem of Nigerian elections since 1999. And so, the majority of the stakeholders now had a consultation and say all those electoral bodies recommended to solve this problem, have electronic transmission. That is why he said electronic transmission to the rescue. In the recommendation, they said any further amendment of the Electoral Act should allow for the introduction of electoral transmission of results. The report noted that electronic transmission will reduce error in the calculation process and improve the pace of collection. Perhaps in listening to them, INEC now said, okay, now made this recommendation in this amendment. The Electoral Committee agreed until it came to the point of voting. APC now instruct them and their members, no, don't agree, vote against it. That is the problem. Continue.
Yeah, it is, like I said, it has always been an issue with Nigerian politics when people don't have ideologies, when people are just planning to play maybe religious cars, sectional cars, and other stuff. Well, that's one. I do know that there could be ways of subverting. Somebody just talked about Kaduna State with El-Rufai. And every time I hear people castigating El-Rufai, but I think that guy is one creative governor, one of the creative governors that we have in Nigeria. Okay, so if he could do it in Kaduna State, I don't know if he had, powers, approval from the legislature before doing that, or how he was able to do that. Okay, so what I'm saying is that, it really doesn't matter. People will always try to, I know people complain that things haven't gotten better. It has gotten better in Nigeria in terms of elections. I knew that in 1999, results were written in people's houses. I knew, I was there and I saw it many, many places. Results were not held. In fact, most of the results were announced before the elections were concluded. But now, all we are fighting presently is just snatching of ballot boxes and stuff like that. So I don't know, but it does appear to me that this is not going to get away soon. So it behoves on people now to find ways of making sure that they, whatever results they count, but they cannot count. I'm sorry, they cannot count because the people we're banking on to protect the integrity will be given some money and they will do whatever they want. It is a problem.
All right. Who next?
I think like what Mr. Johnson was saying, even the collation itself can also be subject to human error. So the electronic transmission itself, if you don't have like an honest person there collating the result, it can still be manipulated and then keying a different number. It's only the
I think before you continue, see, that is the thing. It is just like you cast election, you after voting in an polling unit, they count the votes and announce the results at the polling unit. You know, that is what they do now. So the electronic transmission simply say, instead of carrying that results you announce at the polling booth to the collection center, no, say there. People will see you key it in now. You key it in, immediately you key it in, is transmitted straight to the INEC server. I think that is my level of understanding. I don't know.
And then after keying it in, you can also snap that sheet and attach it if you want like a dual confirmation, you know. So, yeah. So this is the result sheet that is signed, this electronic format of it. You can send both of them.
Yeah, I suppose there's a...
And then in this year and time where people are using data for a lot of analytics, insights, information, we are saying we don't need it. Now, wow.
Before we go, please, I want to... do we know how the Middle Belt lawmaker voted? Because it will affect what we are trying to do.
Yeah.
Do we know how the Middle Belt senators lawmaker voted?
Sorry, if I pull up that it wasn't broken down. I mean, that analysis has not been done in terms of region.
Okay, let us ask them later.
No, you can pull it up. Let us look at it. I'm even interested in what they did. I can just Google and get you the names of the Middle Belt senators, and let's look at what they did.
Hold on quickly. Let me. But I know that is it Smart? Is Smart are they?
Smart is Kogi State, and I was so disappointed in that guy.
Belt, is it?
Was it not? Mazi, sorry, I wanted to ask. Is it not the same Smart Adeyemi that used to preach on radio, Success Power or something?
I don't know.
It's an activist, though.
Huh?
Smart that Adeyemi used to be an activist.
Of course, like Dino now, like Dino Milan.
Like Dino, all of them, leaving the other one.
Well, my question is there electronic voting? That's my question.
No. Did they push down electronic voting in the previous one? The previous INEC, Jega wanted to, that was the initial controversy, electronic voting. They pulled that one down, said because Nigeria doesn't have the facility and network to do electronic voting.
It's not about, what they are saying is not about electronic voting, but, once you voted so that let's start with transmission.
Yes.
Transmission like our former IGP.
I have the names of those people, but the list I have does not give their states. So.
No, we can.
Yeah, you can probably hazard again, but that's what I'm saying.
Okay, I can show you now. Okay, you're already showing one. Okay.
I think what is going to happen is between now and Sunday, Monday, people would eventually break this down because by the time we start publishing ours and we go in our Middle Belt forum and ask them to pick out the name of their senators there. So we will come up with something very quickly.
Can you call the Senate? Can you call the state and I will tell you their senators?
No, listen, you don't need to do that now. You don't need to. This is something. I will share this in our forum. So these are things. Something we can. Do it. But when I look at it, one thing apart from Clopas, Zuwoge, which sounds Middle Belt to me, you can see this is Christopher Ekpenyong is likely Akwebong, Ayeki Ekong Etim likely Akwebong again, Patrick Akinyerula it's likely Yoruba, Francis Uchi, Benjamin Laya, Middle Belt.
That's That's a Middle Belt.
Dam Baba, I don't know, likely again. And I look
at the senator, even now I vote, my friend. How did he vote?
Otazi is Enugu. Philip Adoda is obviously. I don't know. It's we'll see.
What you have to know is that once APC told their members to vote, all APC members voted against.
So you are invariably on a live TV saying that APC don't have independent thinking.
But no, that's what happened now, and that was why that's what happened. All of them, but once APC passed that instruction, well, I think only two rebelled. All others voted against.
Mazi, I needed to see Benue. Benue has Patrick Abamoro, Emmanuel Yisa Okewa, and Gabriel.
Bear in mind, myself, 56 of them didn't do so.
Okay, so they of them did
nothing. 56 of them, and again, because 28 actually voted. Sorry, for 28 voted yes. So yes, and when you add the number, the 28 that didn't, 28 didn't vote, right? If you add it, assuming they voted yes, if you add it to the 28 that voted, it would have given you 56 as opposed to the 52. So you would have seen a clear majority. But again,
a clear majority, yeah.
They did Ben Johnson with their legs. Anyway, gentlemen.
And then this thing might also be a planned work that says, okay, you guys abstain. If you know you don't want to abstain, and let us do what we need to do. You never can.
I had that Senator Ojizoka caution that Baribe over demand for electronic. He claimed that the Southeast had neither stable electricity nor sufficient telecommunication coverage to guarantee efficient transmission of results. This Ojizoka is a madman.
Well, I have another question.
And these are people you will be expecting to eventually bring laws that will take you out of. Listen, we're in a rat hole.
Well, you said that the INEC could, decide where, the electronic transmission was going to be possible. Now, my question is it possible for INEC to say, okay, that a majority of Anambra people, they are good to go, that they can transmit electronically, and then say in Bauchi, because they have problems, they cannot. Is it possible to do that? Because that's going to create another problem.
INEC